the meeting to order. Everyone, if so inclined, I'd like you to stand, face the flag as we say the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It is a nice touch, guys. Have that added. I like that. Okay, we don't have any others. Anything extra for the board?
Yeah, this is true.
Hi, Brenda. Okay, we have no agenda changes, so I'd look for a motion to approve as shown.
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda.
Motion by Rob, seconded by Kurt. Other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Scheduled presenters. Amy is here. New tech department structure goals for the year.
Hello.
I've had Amy, we've talked about this. We want to definitely work on our technology and teaching you everything we've got. Before she gets started, or as she's I'm going to hand out the presenters for the year. Take this home with you. If you have more ideas of things that you want, I know when we talked about goals for me, we wanted kind of a year plan of what's going on in our school. There's a second spot. We can always have a second presenter. But as you can see, we're kind of going down the list here. One of our biggest goals is what Amy's going to do tonight is really keeping the board up to speed on what's going on in technology. And more so, our goals for the year and where do we want to go and how do we want to achieve that. So thank you for Amy. She's been sick, so I'm really glad that she's here and with us.
My voice sounds a little froggy, so sorry about that.
Move it over to her.
Yeah. So before I kind of get into this like dog and pony show, as I like to call it, first of all, I want to thank the Cannonball School District for taking a chance on me and hiring me. I've put a lot of years into the district, and I'm hoping that having those relationships with people is going to help with this kind of new position. What is interesting is I'm talking to some of our vendors and things like that that we're working with and purchasing things. A lot of districts are moving in this direction. Because the first people who came on with technology were tech directors. It was, let's get the technology in the building, let's get it out to staff. But now after 2, 3, maybe 5 years or so, people are doing I have the technology, I don't know what to do with it. So now I'm wondering if you could give me somebody who could come in. And I told staff this, I by no means know everything there is to know about everything with technology, but I'm willing to learn and I'm willing to be supportive in helping them do that. So it's been very, very fun for me the first couple of weeks, but I told Beth I kind of felt like last week was the first week that I actually got to do my job, what I was hired to do, and I'll show you a little bit about that. So I've actually kind of adopted this kind of phrase about being tech smart. These are actually my goals that I believe Beth shared with all the board members for what we kind of want the tech department to do this year, and in particular what I want to do. And one of the biggest things that I want to do is to be able to communicate kind of plans and learning opportunities regularly. And that is for staff, but it's also for students as well, or admin, or whoever that might be. The second one is to support staff to improve learning. Ultimately, we're investing all this money in technology. We should be using it to improve learning and looking for ways of evidence that is actually what is happening. And the last one is to introduce pathways to learn about tech careers. Beth actually mentioned that one to me. That's kind of an important one for her. And so some of the things that I will be doing with staff, hopefully that will also trickle down to students, but I will also be using some of our tech tools to push information out to students about what is going on. So what we have a device for every student. And I was talking to Rob Siebenower before the meeting. I need you to know this puts us in an elite category. It's been very fascinating to be involved in this grad program up at Concordia, and I'm in this program with suburban school districts. Not everybody has a device for every kid K through 12, and it's really a testament to the investment of this district. We want our teacher technology support is coming from experienced, competent, and knowledgeable staff. Between Sandy Sherritt and Dorothy O'Reilly, I need you all to know either one of them could be a tech director easily in a school district. Their knowledge and skill level in troubleshooting our infrastructure along with devices It puts us in an interesting, I think Beth even mentioned this, I think we're in a really, really great spot right now. Having
I'm
2
gonna
tech
add
directors.
To add to that too, I go to HBL, when she says we're kind of leading the way on doing an instructional person, and I kind of went out on a limb saying that we need this instead of a tech person. This has been leading the HBL too, so I'm really proud of everything we're doing because it's going in the right direction, and we're kind of setting the bar again. And I know, 10, 12, 15 years ago, that's what we were kind of known for. We're going back in that direction, being known for trying to be innovative and kind of ahead of the curve. Very, very proud of all of that.
Yeah, very much so. And so I'm very, very thankful to Dorothy O'Reilly and Sandy Sherritt for their knowledge and skill and support as well. We have a variety of technology tools and programs that can help us identify our areas of need for students and how to increase not just achievement, but engagement. And I should put a slash between that. Kind of the new thing in tech is to increase engagement in learning. Because if you're interested in what you're learning about, you're probably going to be successful in remembering that for tests and things like that. And I kind of mentioned that already, that boy, I don't know everything, but I'm really willing to be responsive to the needs and wants of our staff and use the tools that we have. So during device rollout at the elementary school, which happened over the last couple of weeks, you're going to basically view kind of a similar presentation that I gave to every elementary school student saw this presentation. And during that, they also learned about Wi-Fi routers, the integrated web of our tech systems, and the need for safe systems, and why we have put a lot of controls on what kids can download onto their devices. It's not just open anymore, and you can do whatever. It's not like that. And so we kind of talked about being tech smart, and S is for safe. And the reason why is because we do not have a button that makes them absolutely safe when they are on a device. And so we need to follow adults who are going to be kind of mentors. Their teachers, their parents are going to be kind of guides for helping them to be safe in their use of technology and safe in those ways down below there. And again, I kind of modified this for the different grade levels, but mindful. Mindful is about your awareness of what you're doing at any given moment in time. And I talked to the students about there's a time and a place to use technology, and then there's a time and a place to not use technology. And so being aware and mindful of that, of what you're doing with technology, to think about what you're doing with that. And you can see what some of those habits of mind, I asked students to think about creating good habits with using technology. And the biggest one is, and that was a big 25-cent word for all the 3rd through 5th graders, is managing impulsivity. Trying to decide wants versus needs. I want to play this video game all night long, but I need to work on turning in my assignment or whatever for class. A is for appropriate, and that gets into that our acceptable use policies and just being good using technology. And again, partly the reason why there's no hand that comes out when they're using tech that tells them, oh no, that's not a good idea, like you shouldn't be doing that right now. I told them as they're younger, adults help them make those decisions. As they get older, they're going to have to use those habits of mind, be mindful about what they're consuming with technology to help them decide what's appropriate. R is for responsible, and we talked about them being good digital citizens. And this is actually kind of a new thing too, is more and more schools are adopting technology, as we're seeing more and more families using technology. What does it mean to be a good digital citizen as well? And it's everything from I'm going to be smart and safe when I'm using technology to I'm going to care for the device. So we talked about how to hold it and how to not swing it around and bounce it on your head and those kinds of things. Don't leave it on the floor. And thoughtful. I told students the difference between thoughtful and mindful. Mindful is your relationship with yourself. Thoughtful is your relationship with others. And so when you're using technology, what you're posting out there, just like a lot of the classrooms at the elementary use this think poster, think when you speak, we also need to get them to think about when they're posting to technology, is it true, helpful, inspirational, necessary, or kind? That's because we're trying to reduce the incidence of cyberbullying. So we talked about how an agreement is like a license, and I won't go into the SpongeBob driver's license cartoon that they all knew about and I used as an analogy. But an agreement is like a license, basically. And I told them when you get something, you have to give something. And so you've been given a device, and now you are going to give us your word that you are going to do the right thing. And we have you sign an acceptable use agreement, we need you to be mindful of the fact that it's a privilege, it's not a right. You don't just get it, you need to show that you can actually handle this privilege and responsibility. And so we wanted them to stop and think, and then know that we know that they're gonna try to make the best decisions possible. Sometimes they might need a nudge, but there's consequences too if they can't show responsible use. So the focus of the elementary building support over the next year is going to be to respond to app requests and tech support needs. And that's ongoing. That's been going on since the beginning of school. Second is to look at identifying and supporting the use of our school-wide tools like Schoology and Google Apps. Google is, there's some management things that go on that we pay for. Schoology has been a pretty hefty investment for the district, and I think it'd be good to try and push that down a little bit more into the elementary school and want to support the teachers and figure out how to help them do that. The third is to respond to individual and content or grade level requests and their needs that they have for maybe they need a good reading app to identify students who have issues with comprehension, or maybe some really good math apps that'll help them up their math game a little bit. And the last one is to look at supporting building-wide learning initiatives, and that of course comes from Mr. Bell. When it comes to the high school and middle school device rollout, that actually happened the second week of school, that Monday. There's been some challenges already with that. Some of the devices are getting older. We're in our third year. So some of them we've had to work on keeping those older devices functional, and Dorothy has been hard at it, even sending some back to get serviced already. We had a system and infrastructure check last week when all 600 students hit off of Wi-Fi in one 20-minute session during ramp up. And that actually exposed some issues and problems, much like what's going on with our intercom system and checking that. That was actually a good check for us, so we know where some areas of need are with that. We want to support teachers in switching to Schoology Gradebook. We have different, in the past we've used Infinite Campus as our gradebook, and this year as a high school, middle school, we made a decision we're going to use Schoology as a gradebook and trying to help support teachers as they're making those switches. Number 4 is student drives are gone, and their storage of work takes place now in their drive, on their Google Drive, and in Schoology even. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a second. And then the next is to support the administrative initiatives, one of which is using some of our best practices, things that we know work really, really well with students. Last week during Ramp Up, we actually had all students download a progress monitoring sheet. We want them to get in the habit of looking at grades weekly and having them monitor that. And so in order to kind of make that happen, I actually created this screencast. And I'll just kind of show you kind of quickly what that kind of looks like. And I don't know how much you're going to be able to hear of it or whatever, and that's not even really that important to me.
Good morning, everybody.
Oh, good.
My name is Miss Dombeck, and for those of you who don't know me, I am in a new role this year at Cannon Falls Schools as the Director of Instructional Technology.
So I actually sent out this screencast to every Ramp Up advisor and had them go through and show this. It's about 8 minutes long.
Me and here
at different
have a place
spots,
to store
it actually talks about how they can actually
assignments.
Utilize Google Drive. You can see the little yellow kind of circle there. That's my cursor, and I'm actually showing them what I want them to do. So I asked them to open up their device, follow along with me. Let me skip ahead here a little bit too.
And you're going to find a weekly grade monitoring sheet.
And this is the progress monitoring sheet that I was talking about to have students. They all downloaded this out of their Gmail, and now we're going to have them weekly look at progress monitoring. The reason why it's one of the most, it's one of the best practices that we know has the greatest impact on student achievement is having them look at their grades weekly and monitor that. So that just is an example of a screencast, and I got some really good feedback from about that. And students, I've actually talked to some of the staff about having students request ones that they would like to see in the future. So our tech team's focus is going to become more knowledgeable in Google, and in particular to become Google certified. Dorothy O'Reilly is already Google certified. That's a really, really huge asset to our school. She knows a lot of ins and outs of Google, and Sandy and I are actually going to work on that. We also want to become better at managing our systems, and primarily this will be Sandy and Dorothy will be doing a lot of this, but I also too need to become more familiar about the way Jamf works and Meraki, which is our Wi-Fi management, and of course learning more and more about Infinite Campus and Schoology and how we can maybe even integrate those two in the future here. And the last piece there is to utilize our tech tools to meet teacher, building, administrative, and district initiatives. And again, that is all about us increasing student engagement and achievement. So planning and vision, the reality about technology is it's a moving target. We know that when we get technology, it's already outdated, but I think we are in a really, really good spot right now. We have a lot of things functioning, operating in the right direction. We have the right people to kind of help maybe support that. And our intent and plan is to continue not only look at the phase we're in, but start looking at a year from now, and maybe even 2-3 years from now, and where we want to be. So we're going to review our current devices and our infrastructure and decide, is that where we want to go? Is Apple K-5, is that a good plan? Or maybe could we be doing some transitioning maybe to help some of those 5th graders? And I don't know if that's the best solution right now. We're going to get some people talking around a table and talking about that. Looking at our infrastructure now and in the future, it's really different. The first year of having devices, our Meraki system probably could handle that. Now maybe we need to do some expanding of our Wi-Fi system. We're going to seek out feedback from those using technology. And it's not just staff, it's the students as well. I think some of them have frustrations that sometimes in using tech, but they would like maybe even to get more tech support and tech help. And so we would like to figure out ways to respond to their needs as well. And I think the most important thing, which has been a really big part of our school district, is looking for ways to be more efficient and effective in everything we do. And in particular, I think our tech integration. Is there ways that we could be more efficient and more effective in how we have, how we continue forward, moving forward? We've done the rollout. We got everybody K-12. Now let's think about how we can actually use our technology, and I always tell staff this, to work smarter, not harder. We want to use our tech tools that we have so that we're not wasting time, that we're actually utilizing time in a way that's helping us be responsive to student learning and student needs. So anyhow, that was a lot in a short period of time. And then does anybody have any questions?
And we're going to have Amy keep coming back. She's on the agenda 2 more times before the year is over, and have Dorothy and Sandy come in. We're really trying hard to focus on educating you so you really have a good feeling about what's going on in the district. So if anyone's any questions for Amy, shoot them out.
Amy, what are we talking about when we're talking about, do we want to be, how's it, fully integrated? Does that mean we still want all teachers to do, I mean, they're all going to be using Schoology, I assume, but the way they use these iPads and these devices, some will use them more as a learning tool on the side, others will be more integrated than others? Is that what you're thinking?
And the other thing too that's happening a lot in the world of technology and education is that right now there's a lot of talk about 20th century learning versus 21st century learning. One of the things that is a real leap of faith for teachers is to give up control of the classroom. And there are whole schools right now that actually function where the phrase is move away from being the sage on the stage to being the guide on the side. And the kid has the device, and the teacher has some knowledge, understanding of how that device might work and what could come from that. We might even actually open it up and let the student figure out, how can I present to you that I learned this? And we do give them little to no guidance other than to say, we would like you to include X, Y, and Z in your presentation, and then let students come up with ways for doing that. That's one way that you can think about integration. It can also be about a way to communicate with parents, that we not only integrate what is going on inside this building, but integrate the way that we communicate outside of this building and give parents information, not only that you all are educated about what's going on, but parents need to know what's going on during the day, and not just wait to hear it from a student. No, I should be, whatever, emailed something, or maybe something is tweeted out, and I follow CF Area Schools Tech or something like that, and I know what's going on. Or we kind of think about scope, breadth, maybe not always in the classroom where you have to use technology all the time. That's not what I'm talking about. Let's use technology in a smart way, in a very, very smart way.
Will they all be expected to be on Schoology this year, now that everyone has a
High
device?
school, yes. Elementary, we're still in that starting process.
Yeah, and one of the things you should know about that is when Schoology kind of first came into play, I was a staff development chair, so I actually took it upon myself to kind of use that as our training or learning forum, basically, our own classroom, if you will. Then the elementary school didn't get as much of that, whatever, on the ground training as we were kind of going through. A couple of grades are doing pretty well. They're very good about integrating quizzes, things like that going on. A lot of it's out there on Schoology, but not everybody got kind of the same training, the same message. And so we want to try to get them caught up with where we're at. And also, too, the reality is maybe think differently about how we use our learning management system, Schoology. Maybe you don't use it the same way in kindergarten as you would at 5th grade. You know, let's think about how we could use that in a way that's, again, smarter. So, yeah, good question.
How do we keep track of our budget and technology as we're 3 years into it and we're possibly needing some upgrades, but we don't really have a long-term history on what's needed from us as a board for the technology?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. One of the things that ends up happening a lot of times when it comes to, and this is basic economics, right? Higher demand, it starts to bring in new people, new players into the game. When we first bought our first tablet, that was a $650 device, and now Chromebooks are down to a couple $100. And so you're seeing as more and more schools are starting to demand technology and want to integrate this, the cost is starting to come down. So there may even be some cost savings in the future that could possibly happen. I think the thing again is for us, and I will be fully honest, I haven't looked very much at our budget. It's all been about device rollout.
She knows she doesn't have much.
Well, it's all been about device rollout and getting. I see budget stuff as a long range kind of planning thing, and so there will come a point in time here, especially before we have our first tech committee meeting. I'm going to sit down and kind of look at that, and I feel really good about having some people that I kind of made a network of people who I'm kind of connected to who could maybe offer some advice and things like that from other districts about what was good and what was not so good, what was smart and what was not so smart. So
What you guys saw at the last board meeting with the transportation, you'll see something very similar when you come to technology. When we have that meeting, Josh and I know where the budget's going to be for the next 5 years because we have to have that laid out.
Yeah.
Leases coming due will be the interesting, kind of the key factor in that. But we'll put that together just like we did for the transportation because it's important to have that 5-year outlook all the time. And I'm trying to do that in all of our departments so that you guys always have a really good handle on where we're going. There are things that happen. I mean, those like moving the van around instead of buying a bus or something like that. Anything like that can happen. But at least it gives us a decent idea of where we're going. You know, we're always about 5 years out. If you ask Josh, I mean, we like to have a decent handle on that.
I will say though, I don't think anybody predicted for prices to come down as fast as they have, and coming up with the streamlined version. You know, I think about that when the Casio calculator or whatever when it first came out, right in the '80s, and how expensive that was, and now how you can get those for a couple of bucks. So, the hope is that they will continue to drop in price, and we'll be the beneficiaries of those savings. So.
And another thing that, you know, allowing Amy to change into this role and not have a tech director of sorts, it allows us to get some streamlining money and technology. And so if we apply for grants and those goals were very specific, because if her goals are set that way, I can download that into some financing that's coming in. So you never know when those things are coming forward. I know that WeTech is working on some joint things for the whole group as well. But if we have people in her position, instead of just being a tech person, there's more funding out there. So we're trying to align everything with what we think is coming our way. But again, it's kind of a, like I think you said, a moving target all the time. Mm-hmm. But allowing her job description and her goals to be set this way versus always working out, kind of like what Enrique did. This is a better way to go for a lot of reasons. So.
I've been on tech since the beginning, and I guess I feel the presentation was wonderful. We're finally getting some traction. I've always felt for a while we've been kind of spinning. We got the devices, and I know you're always asking questions, Kurt, what are we doing with them? What's it going to do for us? It's the same questions I have. With this presentation, with the people that we have in place, I think we're going to get the traction we've been looking for. We're going to really start moving forward. I didn't realize that we were, I guess, ahead of the pack in the rural areas.
It's very surprising, even to the suburban schools and the city schools. When I tell them what we have, they want to come here.
And to have the way that we've set up her job is very forward moving.
Yeah.
There's only one other district in H-Ville that has that type of position. People will start looking at contracting out the actual duties of what a coordinator does. But we're lucky, we've already got Sandy and Dorothy here. I mean, there's a lot of key players in making this work, but,
I'm gonna just piggyback off of Bob when you're talking about, getting an idea of what to budget for. And I think, Tim, at one time we were talking about, you're looking at a different type of programming or software application for science. I can't remember, or mathematics that may be coming up. We're looking at this for science, is that right? And this one costs this
Did we
amount.
have that conversation more than a couple weeks ago?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were looking at it.
We had that.
But we were looking at, okay, this for, let's say it was for, I don't know, I'm going to say 7th, 8th grade math, something like that. This program is going to cost this much. And then how long would you utilize that program before you have to upgrade or go to a different program?
Absolutely.
And that all cycles into a budget. And is that what you're saying? We'll eventually have a handle on that. So maybe another year or two down the road, we have a good idea about a 5-year plan of when we're going to change out or.
Yeah, and I think that's what's interesting too, is a lot of textbook companies are starting to get the drift that people, school districts aren't going to be paying $100, $150 for a textbook any longer. So we better figure out a way to, again, get this out to people maybe a little bit more cost efficiently, cost effectively. And then with that, with those online, maybe they're constantly being, upgraded or whatever. There's no lag time. I don't wait 10 years to buy a new text. You're getting constant new updated material or whatever that's being sent to you through some of these programs. And that might actually be more cost efficient, more cost effective. So, yeah, that's a good question.
Anyone else? Amy, thanks for your time.
Yes,
Very
thank you. I
informative.
appreciate it.
Reports and communication, we have no student reps. So we'll go down to school board committee reports. Does anyone here have anything from committee they would like to share?
those of you on finance, which I believe is Bob and Kurt, we'll look at having something mid-November-ish, depending on leave and things like that. We'll get ready for truth and taxation. So.
Okay. Public input. This time, anyone who wishes to speak to the board about school-related issues can have up to 3 to 5 minutes to speak. Does anyone here have any public input? Moving on. Consideration to approve the finance reports. We are on page 9 and 10, beginning with our bills.
I think finance, page 3.
Finance is page 3. Yes, it is.
So on top you'll see the balances in the accounts we have. Merchants Bank, we have checking account, about $2.5 million, and the reason for the higher balance there, we just had a transfer of funds to help cover some of the long-term facility maintenance payments from our contractors and the work that's been being done in the summer. The two TD Ameritrade accounts are the balances remaining left in the bonds we received for those projects done in the summer. At the end of September, we'll pay out what will end up being close to 90% mark as we are getting close to the end and things are being commissioned and worked out to be cleaned on to make sure everything is working properly before final payments be released. So as you see, the cash flow there of that $5 million, about 2.5 of that is actual cash on hand. The rest will be tied up in the bonds, the investments. About midway through the page, you'll see the Dakota County taxes, Goodhue County taxes. Those are estimates as of right now. Once I get the actual money or the actual amounts from Carolyn at the county, I plug those in to help. So they're a little bit conservative as they show there. Regardless, the way we are with cash at the moment, we won't be anticipating any borrowing. And then we just have the balance through the end of November as, again, a positive number. Usually what you'll see is the higher tax payments, we receive those in the end of October and November. The IDEAS payments from the states are decreased to help kind of offset some of that. So, just a short and sweet one. Currently working on closing out last fiscal year, getting the new one rolling, and getting work done for auditors to come in. As Beth mentioned, there will be a little bit of a lag there, so I appreciate the time to help work on the audit as I go through some things as well. But
you have any questions with the finance, I'm more than welcome to answer what you got.
Odd question for you.
Yep.
Digging into the past, remember we used to do the shift? Do we do the shift anymore? at the
Tax
state?
shift?
Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, 10%?
Oh, okay, I think it's the funding. So we
Yeah.
90% of the current year funding in the current year and 10% at the end. So
And that's the old way. That's what we're
and that's
using.
what we're still
Yeah.
We
doing.
like
Yep.
that. That's fine.
Yeah. So
I forget that one.
it ties out as long as there's not huge differences in funding year to year.
Right.
100%. It's just 10% of current year.
Yeah.
Or sorry, 90% of current year, 10%.
And the timing on that usually works out really well.
Yeah, the August payments are usually the 10% catch up.
I just forgot they did away with it, because we were at, what, 30 or 40% at one point?
Yeah, they had
30 was the highest.
Yeah, to borrow some funds from the school, they switched to, at one point we were all the way to 60-40, so 30% of our funds got pushed back.
Yeah.
So that's why we were borrowing cash.
Yep.
Yeah.
Any other questions? I would look for a motion to approve the finance report.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Jerry,
I'll second the motion.
second by Rob. Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. Consent agenda. Up next, items under the consent agenda are considered routine and will be enacted in one motion. In the event a board member wants to discuss any single item, it will be removed from the agenda for separate action. You had a chance to review?
We'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Brenda,
I'll second.
Give us some time.
seconded by Kurt.
Yeah.
Any other discussion?
Well, I just wanted to point out and thank the foundation for their donation of $850. They'll be for the startup of an online newspaper for the elementary that will be called The Candle. Yes, so now we have one for the
The
elementary.
lantern, the torch, and the candle.
The middle school is the torch and the high school is the lantern.
Yeah.
I think that's cool.
Kids are excited.
Yeah.
Rob?
I was just gonna say, we've got another assistant speech coach with the 80-plus kids.
We have huge numbers coming, and Jade can attest that we will need every speech coach we can find within
This
the.
was not another new
Yeah, it's
position.
not
Last year we
new.
added a fourth, and then, so this one replaces somebody who left, so.
You got their hands full with a lot of kids.
The other one we should probably note, and I don't think Josh will mind me doing this, but I don't want any confusion. Josh will be out on a leave, but we've got it covered, so I don't want any of you worrying. We're gonna get him through audit. He is really doing well working around our schedule, because none of us want to do the audit. He shuts his door and ignores us while he's doing that, but thank you for his hard work and working around a surgery around our schedules, so thank you very much, Josh. Appreciate it.
Okay, all in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We have no old business. Under new business, consideration to approve the proposed levy limitation at the max.
Yeah, we can let Josh kind of get into that. I do have tons of notes. We both went to different trainings, tons of information if anyone is really interested in looking at the actual levy. But we've got some really good news this year, so why don't you walk them through that,
So I
Josh?
think, the biggest thing to start at the end, overall levy would be a decrease of about 3% total. And that's because you're looking at an adjustment from prior year. Prior year we had the increase with the referendum and the LTF fund. So compared to prior year, it's about 3% decrease. You'll see when you look at the top there, I think it's, we have for your hand, is it 13, page 13?
Yes.
There's kind of like the summary of the 40-page levy document that everyone kind of looks at for a fund-by-fund sort of idea of what's going on. So you see the adjustments, some negative adjustments, and I think the most important thing to recognize is the new LTF funds. While there's an increase in the general fund to help cover some capital facility needs, there's a negative reduction as well, as a lot of stuff is paid out of debt service. So it ends up being a little bit of a wash. That's why you'll see, even though there's a big negative, about $333,000 adjustment in the general fund, and when you get to the bottom, it's only a $75,000 negative adjustment in the general fund for an overall just under 4% decrease in general fund levy from prior year. So there's be some adjustments in there. Health and safety is like a 10-year catch-up, and it's not a year-to-year basis, so you'll see a negative adjustment there. And then slight reduction in the number of students. You'll see some ADM adjustment there, and that would indicate some reduction in funding as well. The debt service, the general debt service, and the OPEB debt service, we're fortunate in our county that we do a reasonable job of collecting taxes. The mechanism is set to collect 105%. We do a pretty good job, and we end up getting an excess balance in there. The state doesn't like to see you carry an excess balance in debt service, so it's a manual or an automatic reduction from the state to reduce the debt service levy. So you'll see an automatic reduction there from the state. We're set up fine to pay for our payments. We give them our debt service schedule, so we're set to cover that. So those are nice little benefits to doing a good job of collecting taxes throughout the year. But again, I think the key thing is that the overall impression is that the levy for our taxpayers would be a decrease of 3% from prior year. There's a lot in information into the 40-page document for the levy and how it all funnels through. And if there are any questions, I can certainly try my best to answer or get back to you in my office. What we recommend always at this time, we have to certify the levy with the state by September 30th. We always recommend certifying the maximum. That allows, if there's any fluctuations in the numbers, if there's adjustments made either by ADMs or anything that we give data back and forth to the state, that we're not tied to one and committed to one number. So it's been past practice kind of to do that, and most districts do. So I guess a recommendation from myself and Ms. Geese would be to certify levy at the max.
Procedurally, we certify the levy at the max, you're saying.
Correct.
But in reality, our intention is to decrease our levy to taxpayers by 3%.
Yeah, based on all the data and information put together right now, our maximum levy will be to decrease it by 3%. That's where we're set. I wouldn't see anything that would bump that around, anything significantly. It would be certainly something that MDE would tell us right away if there's going to be a large sway one direction or the other. This allows us to certify, and we actually don't finalize the levy until truth and taxation in December.
We can throw so much information at people, like the 40-page and even this one page. But I think the bottom line is the bottom line. People want to see their taxes decrease, and at least in this projection, they will.
Correct.
Okay? Anyone else have any questions?
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed levy limitation at the maximum.
I'll second.
Motion by Kurt, seconded by Jerry. Other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Good news. Consideration to assign the school board committee openings for transportation, ed district alternate, staff development alternate for the rest of the 2016s.
If you want to turn to the front page, you'll see that we still have some committees that Josh Banks is either an alternate or a committee member. And a good example is, Brenda is amazing at making all of the meetings. She has one date that doesn't work for her, and it's October 10th. Well, the alternate is Josh, so we don't have anyone to be at that meeting. And so we just think it's really important to take a couple minutes tonight, and anywhere that Josh is listed, and Lori did a nice job of listing those out, if we could just put a name in there so that we know who to contact if needed.
Well, if we start this, I think I'm the alternate for transportation, so I would take that over for the remainder of the year. One down.
I think I could do the Goodyear County Ed District.
Alternate?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been going to those meetings, so I'll
Been
take
good.
that over as
Thank you.
the main one.
There's alternate. Okay.
And then policy, we need an alternate. Ron, you're really good at making all those meetings, but we should still just have somebody just in case.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to meet again before the end of the year.
Hopefully shouldn't need to, but I
Yeah.
still would feel better if we had someone in there.
Yeah.
What's the typical times for those?
After school.
Once a quarter after school.
Yeah.
You don't miss many, do you? All the alternates.
I'll be able
I'm going to miss next meeting. Maybe next week. Policy.
You don't miss many.
I think he missed them, so I'll just say Beth for Bob. Staff development alternate. And when do they meet?
Staff development, we just got the schedule for this year. It's going to be 3:30, which is really tough for Brenda to get to. And Josh was a good alternate for you for that. Who's that? Our next meeting for that one is October 10th. If I could at least get someone to come in. We really only have 2 meetings for the rest of the year. You know that one, Jerry? Well, she's usually can make it, but the 10 one is
Josh,
tough.
well, Josh will bring her. I haven't been in any of those
Okay.
last year.
Okay,
But
Will you know ahead of
Because of
time
the
as your
time
schedule?
I can send it. to
October
you.
10th?
because it used to be at 5 o'clock for the board meeting.
What day of the week is that?
I
Monday.
think it's
So Monday?
next board meeting. That's October 10th.
I mean, worst case, if you can't, just shoot an email, one of us should be able to make
I
it.
think that's absolutely true.
I'm good.
Jerry is our official alternate.
Thank you, Jerry. Is that all you needed, Lori? Okay, Lori's
Okay.
happy.
I would look for a motion to approve the changes in our committee assignments.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Jerry, seconded by Brenda. Other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. Designation of identified official with authority for the MDE External User Access Recertification System.
Yeah, this came to Lori and I. The reason why she put this all in here, we want you to understand what this is. The acronym is basically IOA, the Identified Official with Authority to Comply with the State Access. This seems like there's a lot of work that goes along with this. We really don't know who to give that to. So I'm going to certify myself to do this job. And that's why you'll see at the end, it says the superintendent or director recommends to the board or equivalent governing board, you're authorizing Beth Geese to act as the Iowa for the Cannon Falls Area School District. That's our recommendation to you. You need someone in this position. And I'm doing World's Best Workforce and I'm in there certifying other things, so I can do that for the district. We have to have someone for the school year, right, Lori?
Correct, I have to submit it to this.
Yeah, she has to, after this board meeting, to make our deadline, we have to have a designee. In big districts, this would be an assistant superintendent or something. We don't have that, so unless Mr. Hodges would like to take this over, my recommendation would be
I'm
me.
from Iowa, I don't want to be.
Thinking Derek's not here to defend himself. So, any qualifications required? Don't know.
It's always in the past been the LEA, and
Okay.
every January you designate me to be the LEA. Because they've added new duties, and I went through and looked at the job description, what they're doing is basically pulling some of those things out. It's not a checks and balance of any kind, so you don't need it to be 2 different people. Districts our size are trying to make it one. It's just an MDE thing. We can't quite figure out why. Even if you ask them, they just want this person to be recognized by the board, so.
So when it says the identified official with authority will assign job duties, the authority would be, you would be the authority as well then, correct?
That's correct.
I nominate Beth Geese.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Goodness, Owens.
Elimination thing.
Beth already nominated herself.
We couldn't find anyone else to put in there, so.
I would look for a motion to approve Beth Geese as the Iowa.
I'll make the motion.
Brenda,
Second.
Kurt?
Mhm.
Made the second. Other discussion? All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried.
Do you need anything else, Lori, or will you send the minutes in? Okay, thank you.
At this time, we are going into a closed session for consideration to set the reserve amount for our property, which is going to auction very soon. In closed session, the board will meet just as it says. Subsequent to that, we could spend 10 or 15 minutes with this. I'm not sure how long we'll take. But after the meeting is over, all we're going to do is finish our informational items. Folks, I'm going to excuse you from the meeting at this point in time. If you care to stay as we close up the meeting, that's fine, but it looks like it's all informational thing for subsequent meetings. So, thank you for coming.
No, that was the number.
At this time, board, I would like consideration to close this regular board meeting.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Kurt, seconded by Rob. Other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.